Okay, good evening. It is 6:30 on June 3rd, 2025. This is the time for our regular meeting of the Northern Lebanon School District Board of Directors. I call this meeting to order. Director Blau, would you please lead us in a flag salute and a moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. Mrs. Hartman, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Director Blau,
President.
Director England,
Here.
Director Fowler, Director Klein, Director Kreiser,
Present.
Director Moyer,
Here.
Director Murray,
Present.
Vice President Williams,
Here.
President Nam,
Present.
8 present, 1 absent.
Okay, thank you. First item for this evening's agenda is adoption of the agenda. Everyone has had an opportunity to review it. Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt. Sorry, Robbie.
Oh, okay. Director Murray is the motion and Director England is the second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye or yes. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. We'll move to presentations. Do we have any this evening? Okay, no presentations this evening, so superintendent's report, Dr. Messinger.
Okay, typically I start with Ms. Martin, but she actually has 18 million things on the agenda that she's going to answer questions about as we go through and didn't have anything else. Brad, what's going on in the world of construction?
Well, we're looking forward to a very busy summer with very limited building access. That comes down mainly because our codes enforcement takes away our occupancy permit and we only earn it back once the life safety features are back in place. So this construction time period takes about half the building. It's mainly focused in the teens and science areas of the building. If you've been by on the exterior, you've seen or you may have noticed that part of the greenhouse has been taken down. That's one of the walls behind the greenhouse. That's one of the old curtain walls that comes down and gets replaced, just like the front of the building. The teens hall will be next, right behind the bus awning in the front of the building. You'll see the next half of that going. So there's a lot of work coming and going. The gym floor was started this week, which, if you'll recall, that's part of what we needed to have happen with the electrical work in May so that the flooring could be on time. And that's a multiple week process. It starts with the padding or the vapor barrier, the padding, and then multiple layers of crisscrossed wood to give you the soft feel. And then you get the wooden floor on top, and then you have to seal before it's all said and done. And you have to wait about a week between the seals on the layers. So even though it started, it's not close to being done yet. And so, we'll be talking about that come probably August for that to be totally complete, at least from a flooring perspective. And then there's, still other work to be done in the space. So really looking forward to a very busy summer. They're looking forward to being able to be in the building, working around us being in the building kind of prohibits the amount of work they can do and the type of work they can do. And so having the summer is an exciting time for them to be able to really get in there and get work done.
And if you saw my email today, I didn't forget about the tort. We're in late May and June, and it's been a little bit crazy.
I should mention that we were able to negotiate the use of the weight room through the summer, which I'm sure many people will be happy about. And we've opened that up for the coaches to schedule their time. And I believe there's going to be daily sessions.
9 to 11, I believe. Yeah. Okay. As far as the rest of my report, a couple of things just I wanted to hit on, as this is hopefully we will not need a meeting in July. If we do, it would probably be construction related. But so we're going to be getting to work already on planning things for next year. Some of the hot topics, are really to continue to work with teachers. We have a few folks that are really excited and into the new curriculum template already, so we're trying to support them. They have days scheduled throughout the summer to be working on curriculum. English is writing this year, foreign language is writing this year. We also will be on stage two of the McGrath training. I've talked about the importance of that from an administrative standpoint and documentation, but there's also a lot of information for teachers and then ultimately down the road, students. We'll be in stage two of that, which is starting to include the staff. We also are looking at learning. We have had a system, data warehouse in the past. It's a little bit antiquated. It is a little bit, the updates have not really kept up with what I would say modern technology. So we will be learning a new and then utilizing a new improved data system that I think will allow us to pull data and look at data in different ways and more easily. I'm hoping that our teachers will also find it way easier to use. It's really a struggle unless you're using it on on a frequent basis, I'll say, to get to understand how to pull reports and things. So this will hopefully take care of some of that. And then finally, this has kind of been a hot topic lately, but we actually do have a meeting scheduled to talk about scheduling. As you know, that's been something that I've been talking about for 2 years. We made some tweaks this year in terms of how we do schedules and how we prioritize, and some of that was designed intentionally to get kids into more classes that they are looking to get into. Even trying something new with our automatic scheduler. I think we've seen some positives, but we're still running schedules at this point. One of the things that I mean, we have from time to time quite a few classes actually that do not have huge student enrollment. Sometimes those are just regular ed classes. I think there were 30 this year that had less than 10. Some of them will run because we didn't run them this year, so we'll run them next year. Some of them we won't run. And it does trickle into AP courses. There was a history class this year, an AP history class that there was only one request for. Now, we have several in the world of AP history. There's a few different ones there, but there was one in particular that there was only one. There was one that we've talked a little bit in an email about that there were 4. And those requests are simply the request. That doesn't mean that once the schedule is run that those kids would even be able to take it, because if they are choosing, I'll give an example, there's only one class of Spanish 4. Well, if we have to run Spanish 4 at the same time as an AP course, they have to make a decision as to what they want. We have 11 AP courses and we don't have that many periods. And that's why one of the things that I think we need to look at, and we'll do this, but we have to look at the students over a 4-year period of time so that we can understand as best we can. And sometimes as a 9th grader, they don't know what they want. But as best we can, understand what their full picture is and then lay that out for them. What's becoming a challenge is that they're getting into dual enrollment classes now, which I think that's great. I think it's expanding the amount of colleges that we have agreements with. We have kids that are kind of going to town with that. I mentioned that I will have numbers. They are still trickling in. We got some even today. So I assume that when school is done, we'll have about seen the end of it. So I will email those to you. I think that's wonderful, and I think that's a different avenue. But if you're taking an English class at Hack, that will pretty much transfer anywhere. You're not taking the AP English class. So that impacts those types of things. Different students are obviously some are more comfortable with the in-person versus taking a dual enrollment, although you can take dual enrollment at Hack and go to campus as well. That's a possibility. So it has grown complicated, but I think in a good way. So I challenged Dr. Ebert to, and he was more than willing to accept this, to bring his admin team. We're going to wipe the schedule out the way Northern Lebanon has always done it, and we're going to start with a blank slate, and we're going to see what plan we can come up with. But one of the things I think, no matter what happens, is we're going to have to educate our kids on these are your options, and if you want to accomplish this, then we're going to have to, there's going to have to be a little bit of planning in order to sometimes get as much as we can get for you. And sometimes our students just, they want to take AP courses because they know they're rigorous and that it's not an area that they're necessarily going to get into. They may not even be taking the test. They may not even be able to use those even if they take the test in college, depending on what area they're going into. And I respect them for that. At the same time, we want to make sure that we understand what their priorities are so that we can do that, and then take into account what the state requires you to do also. Because now your junior year, at least for one semester, you're taking financial literacy and you're taking phys ed. So it's not an easy, it's certainly not an easy. And I remember 5 years ago with someone with elementary background and asking Brad a gazillion questions and saying, well, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? And finally, I think he got frustrated with me and he started, well, if you do this, then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then you have this problem. And okay, I think I stopped for a while at that point, knowing that we need to still grow in that area. But it was at the time, it was, we've taken other steps. Now we're ready to take a hard look at it. Another thing that impacts us that we'll be looking at carefully is those quarter classes that the middle school kids take, understanding how we can best meet their needs with those as well and offer things that are valuable for them. So I know that's a lot of context to, a conversation that we've had lately this week, but there's a lot of pieces to it. I wanted to try to give an overall picture of it. Any questions for me?
No, I think you summed it up very nicely, Gary. I just don't want any of these high honored students to be discouraged if they can't take the classes. That's what I'm, basically voting for these kids to do and encourage them to better themselves and for. So if you take it a step back and redo the schedule, I think that's fair enough.
Okay, well, that's the end of my report.
Okay, great. Great report.
I just have, related to the construction, you mentioned hours for the weight room. Is that just for student athletes, or is that for any student, or during the summer?
I know that the 9 to 11 time is an open weight room time.
It's open gym for any student?
But our coaches can also schedule times too.
Okay. And that's Monday through Friday, you said? Or
It might be
Monday-
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, public comment portion. As always, interested persons were asked to complete a written request to address the board prior to the meeting and to inform the secretary by 3 o'clock. We did not receive any notices, so there is no public comment this evening. So we'll move immediately to items for board action. And I'll note that since we did not have a committee meeting, this is a voting meeting. And it should be noted that public notice was given for this meeting in accordance with Act 84 of 1986. By notice of the president, the following actions require a voice vote. All votes in favor shall be stated with an aye or yes. All votes opposed shall be stated with a nay or no. All members abstaining shall state, I abstain when prompted. The votes will be recorded in the minutes as a unanimous roll call vote unless there are any votes in opposition or abstention. If necessary, the president may subsequently call for a roll call vote to be recorded in the minutes. We'll move first to 6.2, and that is approval of the minutes from last month. Is there a motion to approve last month's minutes?
Move to approve last month.
Thank you, Director England. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Director Blau? Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, my vote's a yes, so that motion carries unanimously. There is no consent agenda, so we'll move on to human resources. And I think the way that we'll do this Dr. Messinger, is we'll just go through one at a time, and unless there are questions, we'll vote as a block. We
Okay.
may carve
So do
one
all-
or two out.
Do all of 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, do 8.1, see if there's any questions. and
Oh,
if not, we'll
okay,
move
and
to
then move from
8.2.
there, okay. All right, so 8.1, resignation and retirement. Mr. George is resigning the end of the school year. And Becky Winslow, who, I don't know if you've ever met Becky, 40 years, and she's retiring at the end of this year. Any questions on that?
Okay, no questions? Okay.
Okay, we do have a co-curricular that was had occurred in the spring. I don't know if you got to see the elementary talent show. Amy Shirk was the head advisor, and then Jenny Hornberger and Roger Bailey helped with that as well. Needed to approve them for the 24-25 elementary talent show.
Any questions? Okay.
We have a couple of redesignations. Mrs. Nam is moving to a Group 2 paraprofessional, and Mrs. Erb is moving to Group 5 secretary for the beginning, both of those for the 2025-2026 school year.
And I will obviously be abstaining from the vote on 8.3A, and I've provided the secretary my notice of abstention.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, we had, as we continue to fill out our employment for next year, we have an aide that will be working at the beginning of the 2025-26 school year. And then also we have extended the school year over the summer. We need a nurse present. We have a nurse every year, and our nurse this year will be Carolyn Seat.
Okay, questions?
And then 2 coaches, an assistant coach for girls volleyball and an assistant coach for boys basketball.
Okay, any questions on those items? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve items 8.1 through 8.5?
Motion to approve 8.1 through 8.5.
Thank you, Director Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Blau. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving 8.1 through 8.5, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
And my vote is also a yes, except for item 8.3A, which I abstain from. And with those votes, those motions carry with the exception of one abstention on 8.3A. Thank you.
Okay, I'll do 9.1 and 9.2. I guess student, those are the 2 that we do every month, the student activity report and the cash disbursements.
Okay, any questions on either of those? And if not, we'll vote on 9.1 and 9.2. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve 9.1 and 9.2.
Thank you, Director Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Director Klein. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, my vote is also yes. Those motions carry unanimously. Okay, 9.3, final budget.
Final budget. This is the same budget that was approved in May, the first time. This would be the second approval.
Okay.
You don't have anything on that, Ms. Martin, do you?
I do not,
Okay.
Okay,
unless anyone has any questions.
any questions? I think we've covered that ground pretty well. Okay. Motion to approve item 9.3, final budget.
Motion to approve 9.3.
Thank you, Director Murray. Second. Thank you, Director England. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. My vote's also yes. Motion carries unanimously. All right. 9.4.
Okay, 9.4 is the annual homestead farmstead. We had those numbers. We talked about those in May. They are increasing them slightly for next year for our taxpayers. And then the other one that goes along with that is there's an annual fund balance designation that puts has all the financials for the amounts for where how much money we have in each of the categories.
Okay. Any questions on either of those? 9.4, 9.5? Okay, hearing none. Let's continue.
Okay, our annual dental services agreement that we provide for students, our annual professional services from WellSpan that we provide for students are all of a lot of our IU-13 student service agreements, the job training, you'll see there, the occupational physical therapy, the personal care assistance, the special ed shared services, and also the speech and language services. In addition, the classified handbook that reflects, there's two documents there. One of them is just the 2.5 increase to starting wage, which was already approved, but that's the updated chart. And then there were a few tweaks to the handbook that we outlined to reflect some updates that Mrs. Bruce had talked about earlier. And that's the end of 9.
Okay. Any questions on 9.6, 9.7, 9.8, or 9.9? Okay, with that, then I'll receive a motion to approve items 9.4 through 9.9.
Motion. Go ahead.
Nope, I got.
Motion to approve 9.4 to 9.9.
Okay, Director Blau with motion, second, Director England? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries. My vote's also yes. So 9.4 through 9.9 carry unanimously. Okay, we'll move to item 10.
Okay, item 10, we had these on at the May committee meeting, and if you remember, because they were new, we gave the extra month to look through and ask any questions. I know that the small gas engines is an extremely requested course. If that is approved, then more kids than we would have the ability to run. Some of them will have to wait a year, but that was a very popular one. Financial literacy is the one required by the state. 21st century skills gets into some things in the middle school that probably those kids need to be discussing. And then two others, and these are kind of examples too. These would be geared more toward probably the higher end student, but they're not AP courses either. So that also is something. And when I talked about courses, that's something to think about too, that maybe these courses don't get requested enough because kids do like the GPA component of AP honors or dual enrollment courses because they're higher GPAs. But anyway, really interesting courses. I thought I would take at least one of them for sure. But I appreciate the teachers thinking outside the box to bring some new classes.
Okay, any questions on item 10.1?
Quick question. Is
Sure.
that financial literacy, is that an elective for seniors since they're not part of the?
It's a junior course. Everyone has to take it. It's a state requirement at this
Right,
point.
but since the seniors missed it. I
Oh,
didn't know if
no, they get out of it. Everyone up,
to take it.
She's saying.
I don't know. That's a great question. We'll have to check into that. Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
question. Anyone that is, the rule was this, it has to be in 9th through 12th, 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th, whatever grade level you offer it in. Anyone that's past that grade level, it would not be required. I don't know any reason why they couldn't, but I don't know that we had requests for it. Yeah. It's a great question.
Okay,
Yeah.
any other questions? Okay, we'll move on.
10.2 is some field trips for next year. And then we did have one early graduation request that was attached for you for next year to graduate early.
Okay. Any questions on any of those items, 10.2 or 10.3 or 10.1?
I just had a quick question about the art field trip. Was
Sure.
it specific grades that it didn't mention any grades, or if it was just the art club?
It starts usually with art students. If there's open spaces, they open it up to others. It's across grade levels.
Okay, any other questions? All right, motion to approve items 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3.
Motion to approve 10.1 through 10.3.
Thank you, Director Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Kreiser. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. My vote's also yes. Motion carries unanimously. Move to 11, facilities.
I'm actually going to let Dr. Reese talk about
right.
this one a little bit.
The 2023 hazardous mitigation plan is a process that the county goes through, county emergency management works on. And it identifies projects in which, if funding becomes available, their mitigation efforts to help the community not have as much impact should a disaster of some sort occur. I don't know, maybe Director Kreiser knows the year, but there was a change in definition as to whether or not school districts should adopt the plan. And the most current interpretation is that school districts, in fact, should adopt the plan as a governmental agency. And it just reinforces the county's ability to get funding should funding become available. It also, in the future, would open the opportunity for us to identify certain types of mitigation projects as a signee to the plan. We're a little delayed in this. You'll see that the plan is dated as a 2023 plan. Between Gary and I, we do not recall why we didn't adopt the plan or present it to the board back at that point. We're in an interesting place because SPO Lawver was a member of the planning team with the county at the time. And so we really are unclear why it didn't make its way to the board for approval. This is something that I believe 4 of the 6 school districts have adopted in the county. So we would just be signing on with them, just like the others.
Okay.
Did I miss anything, Director?
What's the-
Kaiser, that
Yeah, I can add one thing.
Yeah.
This, by adopting it, if there were to be a federal disaster declaration that would entitle the school district to disaster relief funds from FEMA, this would enable us to apply for those funds by having adopt. That's one of the things on the checklist for FEMA.
Do you know how often they do it, just so we know to look for it next time?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's every 5 years, and it takes time to go through FEMA, so that it's also like, this isn't that late. I don't think we're behind the curve in adopting it or anything, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any questions on 12.1? I'm sorry, 11.1, thank you. 11.1. Any questions on 12.1? No. Okay, 11.2.
Yeah, I'll let Ms. Martin talk about the next two, 11.2 and 11.3.
These are our renewal contracts to work through the IU consortiums for electricity and natural gas. Their natural gas, they go through NRG. And for the energy, it's obviously with MedEd. And I by no means profess to be an expert on energy purchasing, but the IU has employed Stephen Fry. And if you ever met him, he is very good at purchasing co-ops and consortiums, and he handles this for us. And I meet with him about once or twice a year for updates. Otherwise, he goes out and purchases and hedges the prices for us and does a fantastic job for the school district. So these are both through the IU consortiums with various other school districts.
And it's the same thing that we did last year.
Correct.
Right. And our analysis back then was that it saved quite a bit of money.
Yes, it was less than Constellation, who we had previously
Right.
been with up to this point.
Okay, any questions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve items 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3? Thank you, Director England. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Blau. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, my vote's also a yes. Motion carries unanimously. All right, policy, item 12. finally.
Okay, start with 237. That's our electronic devices policy. Thank you to Director Blau, Director Kreiser, Director Nam for helping to work through that. We also had administration look at it, and we think we have the wording where we like it. It does allow student usage on transportation in the morning. And after speaking to Kreis, they were in favor of that and felt it would be very difficult. Now, obviously, if it's used for an inappropriate purpose, it would meet other criteria in the handbook and there would be consequences for that. But just to have it in listening to music or whatever, that will be allowed. But then once they're in the building for their instructional day until they're released from their instructional day, it will have to be put away. As I said before, once we have the policy, we're going to try to apply for the grant for bags. And we'll make a determination if we're going to use those for students that are having difficulty putting it away. If we're going to use it blanketly, we'll work through that. But I mean, right now it would be targeted usage based on the discussions. But either way, if the state's going to give us the bags, we're going to get the bags. So that's where we are with that.
Questions?
I'm just curious if there, I know you said you ran it by the staff. I'm just curious what the overall, I mean, I'm sure everybody has different opinions, but what the overall feedback has been from the staff.
They, yeah, I mean, I think everybody does have different opinions, but in general, um, I'll use the term wishy-washy. I know that's not a scientific term, but giving the ability for teachers to make those decisions allows for a multitude of issues. You go to one class and you can't. You go to a different class and you can. Students start to pressure the teachers that are saying no. It just becomes a difficult situation in terms of being consistent and sends mixed messages to kids. And so the feedback that Dr. Ebert had received was positive in terms of, okay, well, this is easier to just say no across the board. And then if need be, if we're having difficulty somewhere specific, we'll have to go address that. But from that standpoint, the consistency makes it easier. Whether you philosophically agree with it, that's a whole different story. But from an operational standpoint,
Provide some consistency.
at least in theory.
Right.
We've had students that have free phones on them, and that, those types of things will continue to probably be a challenge for us.
They will.
So,
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, would there be like a grace period, or is this going to start right after the school, beginning of the school year?
we would start at the beginning of school.
I like it.
Okay. Yeah, they'll be notified with the handbook. Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's do 12.2 then as well.
Okay. This is the AI. We don't have a current policy on it. If you read through that carefully, you'll see lots of things about training for staff and, students understanding how to use it properly, understanding when they can use it, when they can't use it. There's a lot of direction there. We felt comfortable moving forward. I mean, boy, since we started talking about this even a few months ago, I think it was February, where had a presentation on it. I think it continues to explode, and you're just seeing more and more usage of it. And so I think it was smart on our part. I'm talking about the collective whole here, just to move forward with it. And but this does outline some things that we'll have to do to make sure that we can use it in a manner that's productive.
Okay, any questions? Right. Do you want to?
Let's table it.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve items 12.1 to 12.2?
Motion approved?
Okay, thank you, Director Moyer. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Director Kreiser. Is
My language didn't get on it.
this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion on 12.1 or 12.2? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, my vote's also a yes, so that motion carries unanimously. I was talking with Dr. Messinger about 12.3, and I don't, if you want to talk about it real quickly.
Yeah, let me just hit on this quickly. Our policy 230 doesn't make sense as written. I looked at, there are some districts that don't have a policy 230. There are other districts that have a much differently worded policy 230. I believe this policy is probably specifically designed for the musical because we don't approve anything else. We don't approve the halftime show for band. We don't approve the songs that are done for the band concerts or the chorus concerts or anything like that. So um, the idea was to retire it and then take a look at some other examples and come up with some guidelines, or we had talked about different ways that we could tackle it. But ultimately, even if I think, if I don't want to speak for Director Nam, but I think it is more of an administrative task than it is a board task. But then there should be some guidelines or some information there to help them guide their decisions. I'll be truthful, we had talked about this, and there was going to be a slight rewording that we were going to revisit a new policy or a revised, we were going to discuss it again in August, and that wording did not make its way to this, so I would be comfortable tabling this until August. At the same time, I will be then needing to approve, and I will I'll have to use my superintendent powers over the summer because we don't have another meeting, and they're going to have to get started on the musical. So I will certainly inform you what the selection is, and you may provide me specifically feedback. Obviously not a discussion, but then I'll have to approve it before the August meeting so they can get started on it. If we had retired this, I could have approved it because the policy wouldn't be in existence, and then we could put a policy in place in August. That didn't come up until, I think it was Monday, and the language didn't get to the policy. That was my fault. Does that explain it?
Yeah, are there questions? I mean, I could see two paths forward, Dr. Messinger. I mean, I think we could still proceed with retiring the policy, or we could table it. My concern is if we don't retire it now, as the policy is currently stated, the board would have to approve the musical.
There is a line in board policy granting me the power to approve things for continued operation of the district. This
Okay.
would be something that would be continued operation of the
Okay.
district.
All right.
In my mind.
Okay, any questions?
I would suggest that it doesn't specifically say that we have to approve the musical. It doesn't say, it just says that the request for the public performance, it doesn't say that we have to prove what the public performance content is.
Fair point.
I mean, there,
Yep.
it's open to interpretation there, so
It's a
we
fair
could
point.
just approve the fact that there's going to be a musical.
Okay, that's fair. Great. Well, let's go this way. If there's an interest to table, excuse me, the retirement of this policy, I'll receive a motion to table this item. And then we'll address it in August. Is there a motion to table? Okay, without a motion to table, then, is there a motion to approve item 12.3? Okay, so we do have a motion to
Make a motion
table.
to table.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, Director Kreiser, second. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, all those in favor of tabling item 12.3, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, my vote's also a yes, so that motion carries unanimously. Item 12.3 is tabled until the August board meeting, and we'll proceed as discussed.
And what we'll probably do is, if we can get the committee back together, it's harder in the summer, but if we can do that, we'll just revise a policy and present a new policy to replace it.
Okay,
That's
that sounds good.
because we don't need to necessarily resign it first.
Okay,
That
Right.
was only to continued operation, like I said.
great. Okay, thank you. All right, we will move then to reports from members. CTC, Director Klein.
Yes. As you guys know, we've been going through a feasibility study with Beers and Hoffman. And at our last month's meeting, Beers and Hoffman came and presented some options of what a renovation or some new construction looks like. So that's the first time we ever got a glimpse of layouts or some dollar values of what these options could be. And those six options range from 79 million to 117 million. We're not ready to present anything yet. I think there's still a lot to consider. And we can't forget, we're one of, what, six other school districts in the county. So this is gonna have to go through the entire county eventually and go through the CTC authority. Because I think there's something with the CTC not being an official government entity, we can't have a bond. So there's a lot of steps to occur before we're ready to present what would work for everybody. And I think some of the next steps are to start circulating what these options look like to the business managers to kind of get a feel of what everybody can live with. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. Thank you. Was there any discussion as to the benefits of either renovation or new build?
Yes.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but
No,
I can chime in a
Go
little
ahead.
bit. Beyond cost, I mean, there's obviously you have all new, so you're not trying to retain things that are, I think some of the pieces were 20 years ago, if I want to say something around that neighborhood. So there's some age to some of the things that would have been kept and renovated. But you also, when you renovate, you run into problems that you don't know about, which can happen with a new build too. But Brad could probably go on for hours about the things you run into when you renovate. But the other problem for CTC is going to be this. A renovation is probably the most financially doable, but a renovation for CTC, it's not like we're asking a teacher here to move a math class to a different room and you're carrying some textbooks and things like that. There's a lot of heavier equipment there and some of those rooms cannot be moved. And so they're going to have to change from on-hand learning to textbook learning or video learning or some other option in some cases where they would typically be more, doing it. And so now, you'd try to time up some of that with the summer and try to get as much done over the summer, but we all know that that doesn't always pan out completely. So that's probably the biggest challenge for it.
okay. Great, thanks. Anything else? Okay. Good report, thank you. Legislative Liaison, Director Kreiser.
So there are two things of interest. The State House Education Committee met the last 2 days, and they moved one bill through committee that would address the teacher shortage by changing certification levels. So if you had an early childhood education, they would expand that to cover up through grade 6. And so this would hopefully allow more people to teach those middle grades.
Okay.
And then the other item was the cyber charter school reform that we've been looking at. It's moving through committee right now. So, and the and the Appropriations Committee has been meeting every day, I assume, to meet their budget deadline. So.
Okay, great. We had a conversation, a couple of us before the meeting about Lebanon Daily News, maybe leaving print. Has there been any development that you've seen on that bill that was proposed, I think, a year ago on removing the requirement for school districts to have a print newspaper?
There is a proposed bill, but it only, so one of the things is that you could do it in the digital version if there had been a print version previously in your jurisdiction.
Okay.
So we would still have to use Lebanon Daily News, but we couldn't use Leptown.
Right.
Would be the example for us.
And did that
would be-
pass or is it still?
It did not pass
Okay,
yet. It's still being considered.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, good report. Thank you. And then PSBA, Director Blau.
Just to highlight, section 14.2, I guess we're going to discuss it then about attending the delegate assembly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, so for the PSBA Delegate Assembly, I would like to appoint you as a delegate for that.
Okay.
Okay. And then we do have 2 slots. Is there someone else that would be interested in attending? And if not, I think I would attend, so I can appoint myself and Director Blau to do that. So thank you. Very good. Okay. IU 13, Director Murray.
No report.
Okay, no report. And then I heard from Director Fowler, there's no change order committee report either.
Can I
Okay.
just give a heads
Yep,
up? that
please.
We, speaking of things that you encounter that you're not expecting, we have a situation in the 2002 edition where they must have made a construction field change that wasn't documented, and they moved a firewall from a particular location. Anyway, all of that to say that the options that we're currently looking at are slightly over our $20,000 authorized limit. So I likely will need a change order committee meeting in the coming weeks to approve that if we can't get it under the $20,000 mark.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Dr. Reese. All right, information items.
Well, I think we commencement's on Thursday.
Thursday.
I
It's gonna be the first 80-degree day
Yeah.
of the year.
I sent out where we'll meet and the timing, but I can resend it in case it got lost in all the other shuffle for you. But we'll be in Dr. Ebert's office, which is my old office. Give you an idea. So you walk in door 1, go to the right, and there's a bathroom in there too if you need it. And if you can't get your hood straight, we can figure that out too.
That'd be me.
Okay, great. And then the second one, of course, is what we just discussed with delegates to the PSBA. Okay, dates to remember are all there. And again, we're not planning at the moment to have a July board meeting, and it doesn't appear that we will need one next week either. So we will tentatively see everybody in August, but I will send an email because we do need to work on superintendent evaluations. So if we can, and if we don't need a July board meeting, I think I may look for that evening. So please look at your calendars and let me know if that's available for you. Okay. Other than that, is there a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting? Thank you, Director Murray. Is there a second? Thank you, Director Klein. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Have a great summer.